I know some of you are thinking, what is going on? Why is she addressing expectant parents? This isn't that kind of channel. Honestly, this video came to me in a dream. Don't laugh. Yes, a dream. Therefore, I decided I had to act on it. This is something that no one really talks about, but should. That is why I felt compelled to do it. You cannot redo memories. They happen in a fleeting moment, and then they are gone. You don't have to be an expectant parent to find this information useful. However, as an expectant parent, it's going to be your job to record for your children. Let's talk about the ways to keep your memories. Hey, it's me, Lexi. Da, 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 da. Hello, fellow creatives. And well, today, people who probably don't consider themselves creative at all. Don't panic. We are going to discuss easy as well as complicated ways of keeping those memories in the way that suits you the best. I want to start with something I recall from my childhood. It was interesting for me to have this memory because I didn't realize how much ego a 5, 6, or 7-year-old has already developed. I remember when my mom would bring out my baby photo album and how cool it was for me to see myself as a baby. There were a handful of other photos going forward, and over time that did drop off. I think because my family was cursed with red eye. Back in the day, the flashes induced it often, and those pictures just didn't make the albums. I wish they had. So many memories are gone forever. As I got older and would be visiting a friend's house, we'd sometimes go through their albums, and it was a hard pill to swallow when they had even more pictures. It did make me wonder if their family cared more or loved them more, and that's why they took more pictures. Now that I'm older, I know that was irrational. I couldn't understand the business that is an adult's life, and that some families just aren't photo families. There are families that take pictures of everything, even pre-digital age, where most people have a camera readily available at their fingertips. There are even more now that we do have that technology. However, as time has marched on, most of those photos sit on people's phones, unsorted, or the best ones are selected and posted on their socials. None of these media are guaranteed to be permanent. We think YouTube is eternal, but we used to think the same of MySpace. Let's get back to basics and preserve the memories for the future in a way that's tangible, that you can hold in your hands, and in a way that does make sense for you and your aesthetic as well as your lifestyle. When most people are asked if their house was on fire and they could grab one thing, what would it be? Most people say photo albums. You cannot get those memories back. They will be lost forever. For many who've had to endure various weather events, they've taken to having an emergency box packed to take, which has necessities that will be needed, along with important papers that you do not want to have to get again. The family photo albums usually are placed in this box now. So that's something to also think about if you have existing albums or will be creating new ones. Keeping memories has evolved into a huge industry where people can now express themselves and also create amazing books with which to keep their memories. A simple one is normally called a brag book, something a grandmother can tuck in her purse, and you can also make them very large to be a coffee table tome. The very first thing I think you need to address is, how do you want to present your albums? Keep in mind, this will more than likely change over the years. We are people. People grow and change. So what you do for the first few years isn't what you may do in the following years. That's okay. What do I mean by how you want to present your albums? I mean, do you want to have a small, easy album that records a week in the life or a month in the life? Or do you want to do a seasonal album or only holiday albums for special events? Do you want to do an annual album that encompasses the whole year? The best thing about this pursuit is you will find endless Pinterest boards, tons of YouTube videos, lots of material for you to browse and get an idea of what sparked your interest. I must say this. If you're like me at all, you may need to reel it in a little and get realistic. I love complicated things. I don't always have the time and inclination for complicated things. What you do not want to do is what many have done over the years. They generally will get that generic baby book and fill in the weight and first tooth and even put in a few pictures, and then the rest get put into a box, or as mentioned, many are now sitting on a phone, unprinted, and the first book, with all of its good intentions, just never happens. That's not even a complicated book. That's a basic book. Know your limitations and attention span. Be honest with yourself. If you are organized enough to put aside time once a week or once a month to work on them, then the sky's the limit as to what you can create. It definitely comes down to commitment and making this an earnest endeavor and giving it some priority. If you are not a creative person, I highly suggest you start looking at your friends and see if any of them are either creative or already do scrapbooking. They will be more than happy to assist you in figuring this out, Or if you want the easy button and can afford to, you can pay someone to do this for you. However, that is not what this video is for. But if you do decide to go that route, you'll at least be, hopefully, more knowledgeable by the end of this video to know exactly what you want either way. The other upside to having a friend like this is you can plan a once-a-month get-together. It ensures you're more likely to work on it, and it's a great way to catch up with someone and also to share supplies. So once you decide on the format, short, seasonal, annual, etc., then you need to figure out which type of book you'll be using. The old-fashioned scrapbooks, which were generally black or tan paper with the cover that said scrapbook, were just plain pages where you mounted your photos with photo corners and sometimes wrote the names and dates next to it. That graduated to those god-awful photo albums I had growing up with the stiff pages with lines of glue and a plastic sheet over it. Many of us have either had the glue fail and a lot of loose photos hanging on by a thread, or the glue will tear your photos if you try and remove them. If that's the case, scan your photos and reprint them. Actually, I should note here, if you have any really old photos, it's always best practice to scan and reprint them. I actually have one of those tin photos around here somewhere of my great-grandmother, and I just would never put the original in an album. At that time, the traditional scrapbooks also still existed, but had lost favor for these modern ones. Those then moved on to a binder format with pocket pages that you could slide your photos into. That format is what many of the scrapbooks you buy now entail. You essentially are buying a cover with a few loose pages, and they use Chicago screws to hold it all together. These loose pages are just large plastic sleeves. They come in different configurations so you can slide your photos in, but the most popular is the 12-inch by 12-inch format. This came about so that people could decorate and make an elaborate scrapbook page with paper and stickers and cutouts and writing along with the photo, essentially a very complicated page for a single memory. And this is what I think most people think of when they think of scrapbooking, and it's not to everyone's tastes. Well, I'm here to tell you that has progressed into two different options. There are handmade scrapbooks, either totally made from scratch, which we will cover, and for you non-creatives, do not dismiss this. Scrapbooks are easy to make and really just some math for cutting sizes and gluing or taping. You can get wrapped up in it and also start investing in a die-cut machine, manual or electronic, but they really are fun and easy to make. You can also buy blank books, which just need to be decorated. Again, get the image out of your head of complicated. Most pages are just a nice paper cut out to size to fit on that page as a background. You then just add your photo, preferably with photo corners, and then add any writing or embellishments that you would like. The other option is digital scrapbooking. This became super huge for a while, and there were even singular programs you could buy to do this. You didn't have to be a Photoshop expert with those programs. But as we know, technology has evolved, and right on your phone you can remove the background, add a background, put on stickers, word bubbles, you name it. But digital scrapbooking did evolve. Some of the pages look like the original over-the-top scrapbook pages, but just in digital format. But many were used as an artistic pursuit to express oneself and add the photos in for a real experience. Many of these are just again shared via social media. However, there are websites that you can upload a bunch of pages to and have an actual book printed. This is an option. Just keep in mind that depending on your skill level, the pages, once printed, can seem flat as the dimensionality is an illusion. If you're okay with that, I say consider this if you're good with graphic-based programs. There's less clutter to be had in the house and it's portable. Just remember, you must plan to print these. Phones get lost, hard drives fail, things aren't backed up that should be backed up. I think printing a photo book is a good idea to ensure some memories aren't lost forever due to an electrical failure. Again, digital albums can be done and planned, like we originally discussed, as a monthly or seasonal or annual book. The main thing is to label the spine and or the cover with what that may be. For example, Halloween 2024, Grandma's birthday 2005, July 2018, or just the year if you're doing an annual. If I can find any links to any of the companies I used to use, I'll link them below. Many of them are closed now. I'm not sure why. Many of the artists, I believe, are either doing their own thing now or they are on websites where you can purchase assets or have an annual membership to download as much as you want. I have so many great products from some of these artists, and I'll do my best to see if any of them are still out in the wild if that's your preference. I will also see who is still printing in the photo books and link them below too. Okay, now that we know what our options are, where do we go from there? I will be discussing the various pre-made options as well as my go-tos for making them from scratch, and then we will delve into how you can express your personality or the theme so easily now. Only some of the footage in today's video is mine. The majority are from other YouTube channels, as well as various brands of products. I've done my best to not only label each one, but to link below to the pertinent channels so you can discover more on your own. I do not do affiliate links and have not linked to any specific stores. However, I will always recommend you shop anywhere but Amazon. They have killed the majority of the creative shops out there, and there are many terrific ones online and in every country. Please try and shop local, either in person or online, before going overseas whenever you can. I've listed the brand names, and most of the lines of products that I will be showing are what is currently available right now in 2026. There are many fantastic older products that will still be available in stores or on eBay. Again, it comes down to the aesthetic that is most pleasing to you. If you enjoy how a project will finish, you will enjoy working on it and are more likely to get it done. Do not worry about traditional. You do you and your family. We all have our different quirks and tastes and inside jokes. Run with it. Okay, let's start with the pre-made types of albums. There are various companies that create them. Currently, the most popular is 49th and Market, as they give you various page options. They make papers that fit their specific size of album, and they have all kinds of extras to include. They also work with retailers to provide classes to make your own, and they have many videos up themselves. I was a retailer, and I still have a kit from one of their older albums. If you'd like me to actually make it, let me know, and I can dig all the stuff out and demonstrate. One channel that will be mentioned a lot is MayMayMadeIt. She loves their albums and demonstrates how to decorate them often on her channel. It shows you that in less than an hour, with the paper cutter and some taper glue, you can have an album ready to add photos to. I think this is very important to think about. If you have an album all set to go, you can add the photos as and when they are available. I know the few I've made for others were general albums and created based on the photos I was given to work with. I like adding pop-ups and interactivity, which we will get into, and so I love it when there's a series of photos available, like someone took a burst shot or clicked off a bunch in sequence. They are perfect for those kinds of setups. Now, another company is called Simple Stories. They have more so the old school photo album style, whereas you can just drop pictures in and on the backside have written or printed information on what's going on, or you can cut paper to size and adhere the photo with any embellishments. I actually have a few of these albums, but I use them for organizing my paper scraps and items I've die cut in bulk, as well as some of my sewing tests. Other brands include Heidi Swap, Pioneer, MBI, Colorbach, and We Are Makers. Even 49 and Market have some D-Ring albums. Project Life is another one similar to Simple Stories, and they have a system that allows you to quickly scrap your life events and get them in there. For those of you that want an upgrade from a standard photo album, any of these brands will fit the bill for you. Graphic 45 does some amazing books for those who like to feel something substantial, but who also like to play with mixed media and maybe collage or even paint on their books. Think of a child's book board style book, but minus the shiny paper. Many of us in the mixed media world go in the thrift store and get the book board books and either peel off the paper or sand it down, and you have a totally upcycled book to work with. I'm going to quickly show you here. It's a messy but practical one that I've made to keep my swatching stamps and dies organized. It doesn't look anything special, but that's how I've used that one book. However, for a beginner, it's a lot easier and more pleasing to the eye to start with a pre-made book from someplace like Graphic 45 to decorate. A great designer to show how they can be made is Paul Langford. He does some amazing albums. Many are from scratch, but he did become an ambassador for Graphic 45 and has used their binder album in one project. He's just brilliant at making from scratch albums and breaks it down so simply. He does use dies from Cool Cat, which aren't needed, but many are super cool. His projects are actually easier than they look, and he does stellar tutorial videos taking you step by step. You only need to watch one of those to see it's absolutely doable, even if you've never made one before. You just need to take your time. If you do a search on YouTube for Graphics 45, you will find a number of creators who are present and past ambassadors for the brand. If you use their papers with it, they definitely have a certain aesthetic to them. Remember, you do not have to use a brand's line of papers to use their albums. Prima Marketing also has chipboard albums, but I don't think they have as many options as they used to. I'm not sure if they're now downplaying that area or what, but I don't see as many different options out there. Another very popular one, and one that I personally love to do in my own style and not the style of the brand, are the Heartfelt Creations albums. Sadly, they closed down in 2024. So if you can find any of their albums, grab them. I have plans to recreate their albums from scratch. If that's something you'd be interested in seeing, let me know in the comments down below and I'll work on that video. Of course, this is not an exhaustive list of brands. This is just what's the most readily available or most popular at the moment. I'm sure new brands will emerge or existing brands will create their own versions. I just wanted to familiarize you with the options available and how they actually work. Now, in between DIY and the simple album options made available is to go to the art store and get a large sketchbook, glue bound or spiral bound, your choice, and create something similar to the old school scrapbooks just using photo corners. There are various paper options such as sketch, watercolor, or pastel, and various paper colors to choose from as well, with white, gray, and black being the most prevalent. Just as I was editing this video, a video by Alexis Benrud showed up in my feed, and it's a perfect example of making a scrapbook using a book you can buy. She's doing a walkthrough of her scrapbook, and it may be worth you checking out if you envision something like this for your memories. You can definitely go in this direction. However, keep in mind, another fun option and a way to upcycle is to find a hardback book at your local thrift store and use that. Altered books are a whole video in and of itself, but the best practices are to cut out pages at the spine. It's preferred to cut them versus tear them, as sometimes that can cause other pages to fall out in the book. You then glue a few pages together to make them sturdier and thus creating less pages to fill too. The reason you do all of this, the cutting, etc., is as you add photos and possibly embellishments or envelopes to hold memories like tickets and stuff, it increases the bulk of the pages. So you need that gap in between the pages to make sure that the spine doesn't bulge, if that makes sense. Also, most book pages are rather lightweight, so doing this ensures a sturdier book. You can then paint, cover in paper, collage, do whatever you want with these pages to enhance them before you add your photos. If you pick the perfect book, such as say a gardening book, you may just want to leave it all as is, as that might be a suitable backdrop. Just like a DIY book on, say, carpentry might be the perfect backdrop for the DIYer in your life, and a birthday celebration or an annual album honoring the year that they have had. It will always come down to how far your imagination can stretch when it comes to projects like these. Okay, now we're going to move on to DIY albums. I have mentioned MayMayMadeIt, and I'm going to link below a few of my favorite albums from her that I make often as they are quick and simple. A few of them I've shown in other videos that I've done. She's easy to watch and she keeps it simple. She has the measurements listed on her blog and everything is always linked so you can find what you need. I also mentioned Paul Ford. I absolutely love his tutorials because they are just so thorough. He doesn't gatekeep any techniques and he's partnered up with reliable brands over the years. I have a list a mile long to get from Cool Katz brand, as they have some really great dies for making albums, including some that allow you to cut out slits, thereby eliminating the need for photo corners altogether. Someone who does super basic books, meaning you do not need a lot of supplies, is Srushti Patil. She does work in metric versus imperial, but you can always either convert the measurements, which I do anyway, because as long as you can do math, you are not restricted to the size they show you. Optionally, you can buy a metric ruler inexpensively so that you can follow along. Again, she keeps it easy, so you don't need a scoreboard or even a paper cutter, as she shows everything with the ruler and scissors and a ballpoint stylus in most of her videos. Another person whose videos I love is Scrapbooking with Me Crafts. She makes mini albums, one-page albums, lots of smaller and simpler albums, which are great as brag books, but also for those of you who want to do weekly, monthly, or special occasion books, such as for that vacation you are taking later this year. She's another Southern belle and has a very calm energy and also includes her mistakes and how to fix them when they happen. Tanu Creative has some terrific from scratch tutorials and also has a lot of interactive elements on her YouTube page. While they may look complicated when you look at an album walkthrough, she has a video for every single interactive element with measurements and step-by-step instructions, and most are easier than you realize, and maybe take an extra 10 to 15 minutes to make. Personally, I like to add a few interactive elements to each album, but you don't want too many ta-da moments as it can be overwhelming to some. Be sure to write push, pull, and open in some areas, as things can be overlooked or even accidentally torn if instructions aren't given. The Posh Paper Lady was well known for her various albums over the years. She moved away from that but seems to be getting back to her roots in some of her latest videos. Just do a search for book or album. She remakes composition books found in the dollar store all the way through from starting from scratch and decorating. She gives lots of great tips for getting things exact and perfectly laid, and is well worth the time to watch, even just a few of them, just for her tips on construction alone. Rosa Kelly Scrapbooking is reminiscent of Tanu Creative, but definitely focuses on the construction of base albums and does show decorated albums, but leaves that part up to you for the most part. There are many different sizes and layouts to choose from, and they allow you to choose what will work best for the album you are wanting to create. Personally, Rosa Kelly and Paul Ford are my two go-tos if I'm just looking for a basic album, but I have used the others as well. Create with Scrimpingmommy also has some wonderful albums, as well as journals on her YouTube channel. Some are simple and some are very involved. You will learn with time that you can take or add whatever you want to your album once you get the basics down. She has some really cool ideas and is great not just to learn from, but really for inspiration. There are many more than that, but I'd like to give an extra shout out to NGOC VANG Handmade due to their simplified albums, many of which are a small format and also easy to make. She also uses, I'm assuming it's a female, also uses very simple tools to make them. There are also some small ones I've saved from MS Craftshop. I think this is someone else that you can look into. I don't watch them regularly, but honestly, as I'm focusing on sewing and embroidery right now, I don't watch many of them at all. If an interesting one pops up, I just save it to my playlist for future reference. Again, there are so many wonderful tutorials on these on YouTube. I'm only pointing out some of my favorite creators, as well as a couple who I've saved in a playlist. I have many, many more than that, but this video would go on forever if I mentioned every single one. Now, if you want to get into die-made books, Tonic Studios comes out every now and again with bookmaking dies. These are albums that also come with optional decorative elements and be customized to be as thick or thin as you'd like. You will find that if you don't already own this equipment, that following the tutorials from some of the other makers I've shared already will get you to where you need to be just as fast and with a corner rounder punch. Vicky, and I cannot pronounce her last name, but it's on the screen, has also shared a few die sets from mini albums. There have been other really good ones over the years, but sadly, many of the businesses no longer exist, so I won't share them to prevent you having to go down a rabbit hole of searching for the golden ticket. I'd be remiss if I didn't mention Cool Katz Craft again. They show you how to make various types of albums, many interactive, but they have such a plethora of dies that can be used just for memory albums. They have started to move into miniatures, but they still have all of the videos on their YouTube channel, along with all of the videos on Paul Ford's channel. You will not be left wondering how to use any of their tools or what kind of results you can expect. Now, besides knowing the type of albums you want to create, and then the manner in which you'd like to get there are the actual papers you will use for decorating. This is where you make it yours. I will start with my favorite, which is anything Tim Holtz. I love all of his products, and that in and of itself could be a whole video. However, I'll allow you to pursue that on your own if you'd like, as there is already a ton of media online for him. The reason I love him so much is I really am into the grunge aesthetic, and he also does some really, really cool Halloween stuff as well. I really like Craft Consortium for all of their material type background papers. Perfect for when you want it to look nice, but not be too busy or too complicated going in the background, if you know what I mean. Another one I absolutely love is Stamperia. They have a few designers working for them, and so they have various vibes to pick from. I love that even the packaging is usable and that they come out with two sizes, 8-inch square or 12-inch square, depending on the album size you are working on. You can use both in one album to give variation on an existing paper based on scale. Reminisce has themed paper packs for whatever subject you can think of. Here are just a few of the many options to choose from. As mentioned before, there is Graphic 45. What I do like about them is they create a printed paperback that's double-sided, but they also do a more simple paperback that's just the prints. So not so busy and perfect, formatting your photos and allowing the busier prints to be used on covers, pocket, flip outs, etc. I really like that they start with, the original one, which has the printed papers and the simpler papers. And then if you need to buy extras, which most people do, you have the option of just getting the simpler papers. If you want super cute, then Doodlebug is your go-to. Lawn Fawn has a very similar vibe. However, most of those designs are in their stamps and not in their paper lines. They tend to keep their paper lines very simple. Another option, if you own a laser printer or if you have a reasonably priced printer near you, is Vectoria Designs. They have unbelievable kits with so many extras, and it's all digital, which allows you to print what you need. And the best part is you can have it printed on the paper that you prefer. So this allows for heavier cardstock, textured cardstock, as well as vellum to be printed on. They just have so many options and cool projects, you definitely should check them out. You can also do your own simple watercolor backgrounds. You can stamp, collage, do whatever you like. It's just a backdrop for your photo. You don't want it to steal the thunder of the subject in the photo. That's just something to keep in mind. Keep it simple. There are so many brands of paper, and they vary in quality and thickness. If you are just using them to cover an existing cardstock, usually the weight isn't that big of a deal. You will find you develop a preference. Now, the only thing left are tools that will be useful. As mentioned before, with some creators, all you need is a ruler, a pencil, and some scissors or an X-Acto knife. Having a ball-tip stylus is useful for scoring. But from there, you really can't beat the investment of a good paper trimmer, and I'd also recommend a large scoreboard. Dress My Craft make good options and are affordable, but may be harder to find than they used to be. Tim Holtz came out with guillotine cutters in different sizes, then a precision craft trimmer. I do enjoy the guillotine cutters, but honestly, I find my simple Cricut paper cutter trimmer is my go-to paper trimmer for most things. Now, if you get into making your own books and want to use bookboard, then you should definitely look at Tim's rotary media trimmer. This is meant to cut heavier cardstock as well as bookboard. You obviously don't need to own all of these things like some of us do, but I just want you to know what the options are, because honestly, if you were to get, say, Tim's rotary media trimmer, you could cut everything with that, but it's overkill for simple paper cuts. I do recommend a Teflon scoring tool. The Teflon does not leave shiny marks on your paper, as well as the triangle shaped one, as it's great for smoothing out the paper and making sure the glue or tape has made proper contact with the paper, essentially making burnishing very easy and ensuring there are no bubbles. Again, I like the Dress My Craft brand if you can find them. For glue, I use Aleene's Always Ready Quick Dry Tacky Glue or Art Institute Glitter Glue, the dries clear version. Make sure you get that one. There are also many who are fans of the Lino PVA glue. There are many glue applicators that are useful. I'm not going to get into them here. There are various tapes and tape applicators, also something I will not get into here. I find most of this stuff is personal preference, and in the world, there are many brands I've never even heard of that are available in your country, and they probably work better than what I even use. So I'm not going to get into suggesting what glue or what tape you should use. I've mentioned the glues I prefer, and I do prefer glue to tape. To me, those are the absolute basics that you will need, and a corner rounding punch is probably also very useful if you'd prefer a rounded corner on your covers and or your pages. The last thing I'd like to suggest, not necessary, but nice to have, is instead of getting a manual die cutting machine and all of the different dies, get a Brother scan and cut machine and create the designs you need in Design Space. I prefer the Brother because you can scan in 6 different papers on your mat. And once you scan it in, they show up on your screen, and then you can drag your SVG design right onto where you want the cut to be. You can also set up entire pages of just one thing to be cut out, and you can also score. And if you hate your handwriting, you can insert a pen and it will do the writing for you. You can use it on more than just paper. So it's a great tool to have. There are files out there for books, but you can also figure that out for yourself. And as I said, just create the designs in the program. That's free when you get your machine, and that's the design space. Everything else is just icing and extras if you get really into it, or if you're already into, say, stamping. That's why I suggested getting together with friends. You can share tools and resources and make it more affordable by sharing what you have. I truly believe that everyone should be doing this. It's relaxing and fun and allows you to ensure that you have your most cherished memories safe. I can't tell you how many photos I've lost over the years as they were only digital and either a computer hard drive died, because remember, this was before the day of cloud-based backups, or a website became defunct overnight and you had all of your photos up on there and you were paying for the service. Now, I need to do as I say and get cracking on some of my own albums. I've been so focused for the past decade on making them as gifts for other people, and my photos have not been sorted through and given a home. I will try to rectify that and break up some of the sewing, embroidery, and rhinestone content on here with the occasional memory book. If you have any questions, feel free to ask in the comments below. I'm happy to tell you what I know or direct you to whatever resources may be useful. But the links below, as you can see, are extremely thorough, so please check there for anything that I mentioned. Again, I am not doing affiliate links, so I'm directing you directly to the manufacturer or designer's website in most instances. If you're still here though, thank you. I hope you enjoyed this walkthrough of the extensive world of memory book making. I hope you are inspired to make one for yourself. They literally take just a few hours to create and are very satisfying and addictive. Until the next time. I love you now. Bye-bye.